Some stories break you, some heal you. But here at my 90s love story, we're here to fill your heart. Sit back, relax, and enjoy the story. Yours truly would never do you wrong. He said it in front of everyone. Amid all the cheering, Chase Winters pulled me into his arms and I didn't push him away. I didn't dare. He was the boss of our school, the one everyone had known and stepped around since our very first year. Finally, the crowd of gawkers thinned out, and I could breathe again. "Do you like my sister?" I asked him carefully. Chase just shot me a sideways look. The belle of the foreign languages department. Who wouldn't want to chase her? Brilliant, stunning, easygoing. The #1 girl in her whole faculty. A goddess in the eyes of half the boys on campus. "You've got the same face as her," he said, "and not a shred of her reputation." The words nearly made me choke to death. Vivian and I are twin sisters, so we look almost exactly alike. But our personalities couldn't be more different. Vivian is lively, warm, quick to laugh, the center of any room since we were kids. I'm the opposite, odd. I don't like crowds. I like doing things alone. That was exactly why I'd been walking back to the dorm by myself when the school's boss cornered me and forced me to accept his confession. "You're worse than my sister," I answered flatly. Chase studied me, and he saw the fear underneath. "It's getting late," I couldn't help reminding him. "Can I go now? The dorm closes early." He crushed his cigarette under his heel and laughed softly. He threw an arm around my shoulders. "Come on, let yours truly walk his girlfriend home." My heart lurched. He wasn't actually serious, was he? As it turned out, I'd overthought nothing. The next afternoon, the moment I stepped out of the lecture hall, there was Chase, lounging against the wall like he owned it. "Let's go eat." He came jogging over the second he saw me and led me to a little diner outside the school gate. We hadn't even warmed our seats before he was giving orders. "Call your sister. Tell her to come eat with us." And there it was. Being seen with me was a front. His whole goal was to reach Vivian through me. But under the crushing authority of the campus boss, I called her anyway. Vivian said the foreign languages department was putting on an English play, and she was the lead. She couldn't come. I passed it all along to Chase. His brows drew together. "Friday, I've got a basketball game," he said, and there was a thread in it. "Come watch yours truly play, and bring your sister." I couldn't agree and I couldn't refuse. In the end, I just called Vivian again. "Nora, you've been a little strange lately," she said. She was closer to the truth than she knew. We went to the same university, but the two of us rarely did anything together. "I'm not free today. I'm with Senior Julian, working out the program for the founding anniversary gala." Julian. The name brushed against my heart like it was nothing and left an ache. He was the top student in the whole school. Ever since I'd started university, some quiet corner of me had been secretly, hopelessly fond of him. "Next time then," Vivian said. I couldn't get her to come, and I felt no disappointment at all. It was like ticking a box on a to-do list. There was silence on her end, and then, "Nora, if you're inviting me somewhere, I'd love that. Next time I'll come for sure." I went to Chase's game. Even I found it strange. The old me would never have shown up to something like that. I sat in the stands and watched him tear up and down the court, stealing the ball, sinking baskets. He looked up to the crowd on their feet, clapping, roaring how great he was. And inside me, nothing stirred. When it ended, Chase found me. "Your sister didn't come." He pushed his wet hair back and pulled a cigarette from his pocket. "She's busy," I said, looking off into the distance. He took a drag, exhaled slowly, the sharp lines of his face coming clearer through the smoke. "What, you two don't get along?" I didn't look at him. I kept my eyes on the hard angles of his profile, and I found my nerve. "Chase, want to make a deal with me?" "What kind of deal?" He narrowed his eyes. He hadn't expected that from me. "I'll help you chase my sister." I kept my voice steady, unhurried. And you helped me chase someone. Who could make you brave enough to deal with yours truly? He slung an arm over my shoulder, leaned his face in close, and asked with an ugly little grin, "Julian, Reed?" His face went slack with disbelief. How could you ever look twice at that guy? I really wanted to punch him. Why couldn't I? Because he's never short on little girls hanging around him, Chase said, hopping down off the bleachers, then turning back. You coming or not? Was he joking or serious? I didn't know. But Chase and Julian were classmates. From him, I might catch a little news. So, are you in or not? I got up and caught up to him. A deal like that only a fool would refuse. From the day I allied with Chase, we saw each other more and more. Is your sister free lately? She's busy with the anniversary gala. Yours truly wants to see her. Why go to all that trouble? Chase kicked a rock so hard it sailed away. An idea came to me. If you want to see her, there's a way, I said. Get up and perform something at the gala. Do a costume act. You 500 have a reason to be around her constantly. I'll go up and put on a fight scene. How's that? Chase tilted his head and looked at me, then mocked himself. That's a terrible idea. Can't you think of anything better? Sure, I said, unable to keep a straight face. Do a martial arts routine. The crowd would love it. I was needling him, playing along. And when he caught me hiding a smile, he came to life. Look at this little brat, brave enough to tease yours truly. He reached over and ruffled my hair. The gesture was so easy, so familiar that I froze on the spot. Why'd you stop moving? Chase took a few steps, then came back. Relax, I'm kidding. I hadn't thought it was real. But a few days later, my academic advisor called, and I couldn't hide from reality any longer. Nora, you play the piano, don't you? The founding anniversary gala. I've signed you up. Professor Nolan said it as lightly as anything, and it made my head throb. Standing up in front of everyone was the one thing I could not do. Professor Nolan, is there any way I could sit this out? His voice climbed an octave. Nora, you're a sophomore now. Skipping every event the school puts on won't do you any favors later. Not for your record, not for the connections you'll need. I noticed you the moment you enrolled. Level 10 piano, the top grade. Of course, you should show it off. He kept at it, gently, relentlessly. And in the end, I couldn't wriggle free. I had to say yes. But it had been 5 years since I'd touched a piano. The summer I finished 8th grade, my parents divorced. My mother chose to take Vivian. As she packed, she stood a long time in front of the one piano in our house. Vivian practices every day, she finally decided. So we'll take the piano too. The day the movers came to carry it out, I hid in my room and wouldn't come out. And in that moment, I understood. What was being carried away wasn't only the piano. I sat alone in the empty auditorium thinking about a lot of things from back then. I was so deep in it that I didn't hear Chase come up behind me. He tried to scare me, a childish little jump, and I didn't so much as flinch. He looked crushed. What are you brooding about all by yourself? I shot him a resentful glance. I'm going to perform at the gala. He assumed the worst. Doing what? More fighting? Piano solo. Chase rarely praised anyone. Piano solo. Not bad. Then he sat down beside me and started in on the pep talk. It's not a bad thing, you know. Julian's hosting the gala. A costume act would have been your chance to run into him, get close. Wait, that sounded awfully familiar. By the time I turned to him, he was already doubled over laughing. I was so mad I could have flown across the room and smacked him a few times. But he was the school's boss, and I was a thief with wicked intentions and no nerve. Not joking with you, Chase said, sobering. I braced for something touching. What came next was, who knows, maybe you play one solo and knock everybody dead. make Julian drop to his knees at the hem of your skirt. His powers of persuasion were absolute garbage. I ignored him. I mean it, he pressed, wanting to be helpful now. Anything giving you trouble? Tell me and I'll fix it. I hadn't planned to lean on anyone, but there he was, arms wide open. I don't have a piano to practice on. Could you help me get one? That was the honest problem. Chase grinned. That's nothing. I'll find you one. And I don't have money for a gown to perform in? Even I felt I was taking advantage. His brows knit. Yours truly will figure it out. He agreed so breezily that something rose up in me I couldn't name. All my life I'd asked almost nothing of anyone. I'd always felt that opening my mouth to ask was itself a kind of extravagance. Chase and I weren't even close. Whether he could actually deliver was another matter, but that he was willing to accept my request at all, that stunned me. The tenderness lasted about 30 seconds. When the time comes, I'll swing by backstage to find you, he said, careless, and conveniently catch a look at your sister. Since when, I thought, did he turn into such a lovesick puppy? I figured Chase was only running his mouth. Instead, he floored me. 2 days later, he met me outside the music department's piano room, and behind him, he dragged a few of his underlings. Hey there, boss lady, they chorused. I stood there with a head full of question marks, and then it clicked. On the day Chase confessed to the wrong twin, these boys had been there. They thought I was his girlfriend. Don't call her that, Chase snapped, turning to fire a look at them like bullets. Then he pulled me by the shoulder into the piano room. For the 2 weeks before the gala, you can come practice here every day after meals. I hugged my doubts to my chest. You sure? The music department won't kick me out? Ha! Our Chase is real tight with the girls over in music. One of the boys couldn't help bragging. Nobody asked you. Shut it, Chase said, and the underling clapped a hand over his own mouth. In front of his crew, Chase carried a certain authority. I practiced inside. They stood guard at the door so no one would disturb me. When I finished, Chase stared at me a long blank moment, then blurted, Nora, yours truly underestimated you. It was the first compliment I'd gotten since coming back to the piano after 5 years. Not professional, not refined, and still, without meaning to, it made me happy. 2 days after that, he produced a gown from somewhere. A simple white silk slip dress, thin straps, elegant, with a quiet old-fashioned grace to it. You bought this? I lifted it gingerly. It was obviously seriously expensive. Don't worry about it. He held his cigarette far away so the smoke wouldn't drift over. Go try it on. It fit like it had been made for me. Since he'd done so much for me, I decided to lower myself and do my part. One called Vivian again. Last time she'd promised she'd come. Nora, I saw your name on the performer list for the gala. Her voice was bright with excitement. Vivian always caught wind of things fast, but I didn't want to talk about that. Can we get dinner? There was a pause on the line. Then, sure, you pick the time and place. So that evening, I brought Chase along. When Vivian saw I'd brought someone, she was clearly surprised. She looked at him beside me, hesitating. And this is... Hello. Chase set aside his usual clowning. 3rd year finance. Chase is a good friend of mine, I said. Finance? So you're in the same major as senior Julian, Vivian said, smiling. Chase glanced at me. That's right, we're classmates. The two of them talked and laughed easily, and I felt myself fading into the background. But I was the one playing puppeteer here, so not having to talk suited me fine. I was almost content. Halfway through the meal, Vivian turned to me. Nora, how's your piece coming along? I opened my mouth, meaning to dodge it. She caught herself and laughed. I haven't heard you play in years. This is a rare thing. I didn't answer, but Chase looked genuinely puzzled. You haven't played in years. Then how are you this good? Have you heard her play? Now it was Vivian's turn to be surprised. Chase frowned at me, sitting silent beside him, then nodded to her. She's been practicing lately. I've caught a few of her run-throughs. Vivian made a face like she understood, but there was worry threaded through it. After dinner, Chase went to pay. Vivian and I waited outside. "Do you know who that is?" she said suddenly. I looked at her, puzzled. "He's famous at our school." "You really don't know?" "Famous for fighting." Her voice went heavy. "Getting tangled up with someone like that will bring you nothing but trouble, Nora. He can't give you a stable, steady kind of happiness. Don't drive down that same old road." Some man surfaced in my mind, and I felt something spark. "It's not the first time I've watched a person throw a punch. You think you got away clean?" She straightened, drew a deep breath, went quiet a while. "Mom and I left because he was always fighting. His enemies kept turning up at the door. He's gone now. Aren't you free of it too?" "Free how?" I couldn't let it go. The moment they decided to leave me with Dad, I lost every right I had. Those terrifying nights are still a nightmare I carry. We're grown now. I looked at her, cold. "Who I choose to befriend is none of your business, Vivian." She wanted to say more, but Chase came out, so she stopped. I turned and walked ahead, leaving the two of them behind me. Soon enough, I could hear them chatting away, easy and warm. And yet my heart ached for Chase, that in people's eyes his image was so ugly, so past saving. Chase said he'd come to the gala to watch me. He'd cheer from backstage, bring me flowers. I knew he had his own reasons too, but he was late all day. I called him a few times. Nothing. By the time I walked out on stage, there was still no sign of him. The performance was a real success. The audience clapped warmly, and I still didn't feel happy. Something was missing, and my heart wouldn't settle. Coming back through the wings, distracted, I stepped right onto someone's shoe. I looked up. It was Julian. "I'm sorry, I'm a little frazzled." Even apologizing came out clumsy. "It's fine." He smiled, and something like surprise crossed his face. "You're Vivian's sister, right? That was a wonderful performance." He knew who I was. Heat rushed up my face, and I had no idea what to do next. "It's nice to meet you." He paused, sorting through his memory for my name. "Nora." I nodded. "Yes, Nora." "If I'd realized sooner, I'd have had your sister set up a little icebreaker game so everyone could meet. And I wouldn't have forgotten your name." He shrugged, faintly apologetic. So the boy I'd quietly carried a torch for knew Vivian this well. "I should get back," he said, pointing at his script. "There's more I've got to handle. See you next time." Long after he'd gone, my face was still burning. And right in the middle of that accidental backstage moment, Chase's number lit up my phone. Except it wasn't Chase. "Boss lady." From the tone, I knew it was one of his boys. "Could you come by? Boss is in the hospital. He's got a concussion. Lost a fight to the guys from the other department." I grabbed a cab to the hospital without even changing out of my gown. Thinking back on it later, even I couldn't explain myself. An ordinary college student, going out of her mind with worry over the safety of the school's biggest troublemaker. His underling was waiting at the door. "Boss lady, over here." He waved me in, then looked me up and down and sighed. "You look beautiful today. Pity boss missed your show." The kid had accidentally named the exact thing that would gnaw at me all night. "I'm not your boss lady," I said. He didn't dare argue, but he didn't quit either, just politely led me to push open the door. From across the room, I could see Chase lying flat on his back like some feeble old man. "Boss," the boy called out. Chase turned his head and weakly murmured, "Mom?" That single word landed like a hammer on the top of my skull. A concussion couldn't really be this bad, could it? Chase losing his memory, turning into a fool? I crept up to the bed. "Chase, do you still know who I am?" He stared at me blankly, then came back to himself. scratched his head, and said sheepishly, "Course I do." "Nora, then you're basically fine." So the last bit had been an act. Really fine? Could yours truly ever have a problem? He grinned, then his face fell. "Nora, I'm sorry about today. I said I'd come see you." I'd never seen this side of him. Flustered, I could only comfort him. "It's all right. You've heard me play already." He looked at me in silence, and there was regret in his eyes. "But I never got to see you up there in that gown, playing." Since when had the school's boss turned so tender and mournful? "Then I'll wear it again some other time and play just for you, okay?" I made it up on the spot, just to soothe him. "Deal, deal." He was practically glowing. I glanced down at the skirt. I rushed over. "It's got a little stain on it now. It's a wrinkled mess. I'll take it home, wash it, and give it back." "No need to give it back." Chase waved it off. "It's yours." Chase spent one day under observation and went back to school. And on the other side, out of nowhere, Vivian reached out to ask whether I wanted to go to the coast for the New Year holiday. I turned her down. A few days later, Chase brought up the same trip. "So, I want to go with your sister and conveniently drag you along." I frowned, uncomfortable. So the two of them had been scheming behind my back. "How did my sister even get your number?" Chase calmly lit a cigarette. "Julian called me." I couldn't quite believe it. "You mean—" He exhaled a slow, dreamy plume of smoke and looked at me. And I understood. That icebreaker game Julian had mentioned, this trip was it. But the real question was whether I should go. Going meant more time near Julian. "Go," Chase said, like he'd read my mind. He stubbed out a cigarette he'd barely half smoked. "So I can win your sister over." His stubbornness about Vivian really was something else. But I didn't have the heart to tell him the truth, that Vivian couldn't stand him. "My sister doesn't like fighting," I hinted, pretending it was an idle remark. Chase's face didn't change. He just went, "Oh," and let it drop. The day we set off for the coast, I discovered it wasn't just the four of us. Vivian's roommates, Julian's buddies, 8 people all told, 3 girls and 5 boys. I looked at Chase beside me, and he looked back at me, all lazy indifference. The two of us were like outsiders, especially in a group like this. "Nora, you made it!" Vivian pulled me in, delighted to introduce me around. "This is my little sister, Nora. You two are so alike, both gorgeous." "Okay, everyone, hunt for the difference between Vivian and Nora," someone yelled, and the whole crowd descended, gleefully dissecting us. Surrounded, the center of attention, I felt everything but comfortable. Not a scrap of joy in it. "All right, stop teasing them," Julian said, clapping to draw the group's eyes just as my discomfort peaked. "We board soon, go check your bags." The crowd finally scattered to sort their things. I looked at Julian, grateful. He caught my eye and smiled. In line, Chase parked his rolling suitcase right in front of me, blocking my whole view. I hit him. He faked agony. "You're strong," I glared, and when I looked toward Julian again, he'd already turned away to something else. We got to the island and made our way to the little guest house. Because there were more boys than girls, 1 boy and 1 girl each ended up with a room to themselves. I volunteered. Vivian was pairing off with her friend, so I read the room and offered. The boys had it sorted too. Chase would take the single. In the end, nobody dared share with the school's boss. Once we'd settled in, I got restless. I decided to go out and walk, to see what the island looked like after dark. At the guest house door, I ran into Chase. I couldn't tell who he was waiting for. "Come with me." He turned, and seeing me, his face lit with something like joy. I nodded. The little alleys of the island opened out in every direction, and the buildings along them each had their own character. Chase and I turned in just as night fell. It was gorgeous. "Follow the lane straight," he said, "and you'd come out at the sea." He raised a hand to point. "This way, I'll take you." I trailed behind, and he photographed everything, east to west. Chase, who never had the patience for anything, kept stopping to wait for me. I crouched to snap a stray kitten and drifted after it. And then I saw two figures ahead who looked exactly like Vivian and Julian. Just as I moved to make sure, Chase spun around and planted himself in front of me. Wrong way. I couldn't stop in time and thudded straight into his chest. I felt his body go tense, but he recovered fast, throwing an arm over me and steering me down the side alley. Not this way, that one. I still wanted to look toward Vivian and Julian. Chase blocked my line of sight. Was that my sister just now? I couldn't help asking. No, if your sister were here, yours truly would have run over already. Fair enough. His whole point in coming was to spend more time near Vivian. A lovesick pup's nose is sharper than mine. Chase led me through 7 or 8 lanes, and at last we reached the shore. Hearing the waves crash against the rocks, I suddenly felt the trip wasn't a loss. What are you thinking about? Chase lobbed a shell into the sea. Spacing out or making a run for it? I turned and looked at him, grinning like a fool. Under the moonlight, his eyes were deep, fixed on me a long, long while. In the end, he sat down beside me, and together we watched the clear water rolling in from far offshore. Then I'll space out with you, he said, and run with you. The next day's schedule was packed. Everyone wanted to go to Sunlight Rock. I didn't much care to. The island had a piano museum, and that was where I wanted to go. What's there to see in a museum? Someone said. Majority rules. We're not exactly piano people. The others piled on, 1 line each. Then from his corner, Chase spoke up. Yours truly's afraid of heights. Not going to Sunlight Rock. Everyone gaped at him. He rolled his eyes and sat there like nothing had happened. 1 leg crossed over the other, perfectly at ease. The air went a little awkward. And right then, Julian stood up. I hear the piano museum has a gold-plated piano. Very rare, said to be the first square piano ever made. I'd like to see it too. Let's split into 2 groups. Everyone picks freely. Then he turned to Vivian. You and Nora both play. The museum's worth a look. Come with us. The girl behind him, Vivian, answered with a radiant, easy smile. And so we split. The 4 of us went to the piano museum. The rest went to Sunlight Rock. The museum wasn't large, but inside it was full of antique pianos, rare pieces every one. As a musician, I treasured the chance to walk through it. Julian had done his homework. At each piano, he stopped and told Vivian and me its history, its stories. You know so much, Senior, Vivian said, generous with her praise. I read up on a few things before we came, Julian said, and smiled at her. The 2 of them talked and laughed, and I couldn't get out a single word. Nora, you idiot. Standing in front of the person you like, and you can't even manage 1 sentence. I mocked myself in silence, then, unable to help it, looked around. And out the window, at a corner of the wall, Chase was standing there smoking. He'd come to the museum, but there was no way he'd actually tour it. I left Vivian and Julian and went outside to find him. Why'd you come out? Seeing I had no interest left in there, he frowned. You're never proactive. How do you expect to chase anyone? Aren't you the same? I shot back. Your chance is right here and you're not taking it? Me? Chase was unhurried. Who says yours truly's got no chance? If I did, would Vivian and Julian be in there having such a lovely chat? After the museum, walking back through the old streets, we happened on an old woman selling flowers. Handsome, pretty girl. Buy a flower. There aren't many left. Buy 1, get 1 free. Sell out early and I can catch the ferry home. Julian stopped. There were 2 left, 1 red rose and 1 white. Buy 1, get 1. He paid, then handed the red rose to Vivian, and after a moment's hesitation, gave the white one to me. I went a little stiff. The boy I adored, suddenly handing me a flower. How could my heart not race? But Vivian got one and I got one. Buy one, get one free. And somehow the loneliness came in stronger than the joy. That was when it hit me. From the moment the wheel of my life started turning, I had only ever been the one thrown in for free, the freebie. My pride wanted to refuse the flower and I didn't know how to. He meant well, after all, and I was still reaching out my hand. Just then, someone leapt in front of me and snatched the flower away. Buy one, get one, hand it here. Chase, mischief all over his face, looked at Julian. And then, to our astonishment, he turned to the old woman. Not just this one. I'll take all of them. The old woman beamed and wrapped every last flower into a bouquet for him. He took it, and in the next breath it was in my arms. I stared down at that armful of scraggly roses and fell into thought. Was he only trying to one-up Julian? But those flowers should have gone to Vivian. Why give them to me? On our last night on the island, the whole group went down to the beach together, drank beer, took in the sea wind. Somebody, riding the good mood, proposed a game. Guess which twin is Vivian? Just hearing it, I could tell it would be dull and childish besides. Can I sit this one out? You came all this way, some punchable voice piped up. Don't be a downer. Nora, give it a try. Vivian linked her arm through mine and turned to Julian. Senior, you guess? See if you can tell which one's me. No problem, Julian said, standing up with confidence. The whole crowd fumbled around dressing Vivian and me up, swapping our clothes, tying our hair, putting hats on us. When they were done, I looked at Vivian pretending to be me, and from her eyes I could tell she felt me pretending to be her. Chase looked on, cool and unbothered, disdain plain on his face. All right. Julian circled the two of us once. Everyone held their breath for his answer. This is Vivian. He suddenly took my hand and raised it high. Being chosen by the boy I liked, and I felt no happiness at all. If anything, I was mortified for him. He'd been so sure of himself, and the reversal was so swift. The crowd went silent. Sensing the mood had turned, Vivian gave him a little shove. Senior, you're hopeless. I'm Vivian. Julian let go of my hand, the smile on his face gone stiff. The makeup's too good. You two look identical. Looks like you still don't know me as well as you think, Senior. Vivian was play-scolding him, but really she was covering for him, pulling him out of it. I'd told them all along that we were identical twins, and none of them believed me. No way. You really are that alike. They kept it up, one line after another, even getting into how we were twins, but different, so twins could differ after all. I said nothing. Inside, it felt like a jab. How could Vivian and I ever be the same? When I got back to my room, Vivian came to find me. After that awkward game, and with so little time left on the trip to actually talk, she'd come knocking. I wasn't surprised. Don't take that game to heart. They were just being silly. No harm in it. I don't mind, I said. I just don't like pointless games like that. I wanted this trip to bring us closer. In front of me, she wasn't the version of herself she showed everyone else. You didn't want to come. It was Senior Julian who went and asked Chase. That's the only reason we got you here. So the whole elaborate trip had been to patch things up with me. Julian helped a lot with it. Wait, why did every other sentence out of her mouth have to circle back to Julian? Something dawned on me. You like Julian? Vivian's eyes darted away. In the end, awkwardly, she nodded. In that instant, it was like a bucket of ice water crashed down on my head. Cold all over, cold clean through the heart. Twin sisters, in love with the same boy. How absurd. And besides, all my life, I'd been the one with nothing. Why should this time be any different? I gave up. About what I said before, about Dad. Don't take it to heart, Vivian said after a silence, changing the subject. I've already forgotten it. That's what my mouth said. What my heart said was, I haven't forgotten a thing. As for Chase, Vivian bit her lip, hesitated, but said it anyway. Being friends is fine, but don't get too close to him. He can't give you a steady kind of happiness. Don't fall into that same rut. So she was afraid I'd end up involved with Chase. She was worried for me. I didn't want to explain any of it to her. I know my limits, I agreed, and left it there. After we got back from the coast, final exams began grinding us down. Ever since I'd learned Vivian liked Julian, the alliance with Chase had felt like it existed on paper and nowhere else. So the two of us drifted, talked less. Sometimes he'd come find me, and I'd use studying as an excuse not to see him. The day I finished my last exam, I said goodbye to no one and went straight to my father's parents' hometown. On New Year's Eve, the relatives called me over for the reunion dinner. The rest of the break I spent alone at the house. The third day of the new year is my birthday. I woke early. Outside snow had started to fall. I opened my phone. 2 messages, one from my mother, one from Vivian. Happy birthday, little sister. Happy birthday, Nora. Sent at the same moment. Together, probably. After my mother remarried, they'd left this little town for another province. Every year the birthday text came, and every year we never spent it together. I was used to it by now. I'd stopped expecting anything. No surprise, no joy, none of that. By evening, I'd boiled a single pack of instant noodles and called them my longevity noodles. Happy birthday to me. Every day a happy one. I mocked myself, then lifted a bite to my mouth. And over the sound of my own chewing, the doorbell rang. Who on earth would come knocking on a day like this? Frowning, I went and opened the door. Happy birthday, Nora! Chase dropped out of the sky, a bag of pastries in his hand, snowflakes melting on his hat, his face flushed red with cold, breath fogging white. Come on, it's freezing out here. He was electric with excitement, and without waiting for permission, he pushed past me and hurried inside. I stared. How did you know today was my birthday? Chase froze for a beat, then his whole face turned smug. Yours truly isn't stupid. The whole world knows today's your sister's birthday. Do the math. I gaped at him. He was exaggerating. Not the whole world, but at school, plenty of people who knew Vivian, and even plenty who didn't, knew today was her birthday, and yet only he had remembered that her birthday was mine too. Yours truly rode the train an hour to get here? Chase peeled off his coat and dropped onto the sofa. You're not bad at this, I said. You finished exams and didn't even tell me. How'd you know where I live? I kept pressing. He wouldn't meet my eyes, pretending to survey the room. Yours truly is all-knowing and all-seeing. Wherever your house is, one quick look and I know. I eyed him doubtfully. He got flustered and forced the subject somewhere else. Where's your family? My dad's not here. I didn't want to get into it. We sat quiet a moment. Chase spotted the instant noodle cup on the table, and his brow furrowed hard. Instant noodles for dinner? You could also call them longevity noodles. I smiled at him, trying to smooth over the awkwardness. Chase didn't answer. He opened the pastry box, took out a cake, planted candles in it, lit them. He switched off the lights and stood in front of me holding the cake, the candlelight glittering in his eyes. Come on, I'll sing, you make a wish. There didn't seem to be anything worth wishing for. I just closed my eyes gently and blew the candles out. Happy birthday, Birdie. In the ink-black room, I heard his voice, gentle in a way it rarely was, and something strange welled up in my chest, but I didn't let myself get pulled under by it. The second the lights came back on, I gave a shudder and faked a full-body cringe. Chase, that's revolting. Change what you call me. He hadn't expected the reaction. He thought a while, then floated a trial balloon. How about Sweet Birdie? Looking at that face begging to be hit, I really wanted to smack him. Just call me Nora. He was visibly unhappy, but in the end, he agreed. Why aren't you spending your birthday with your sister? Chase, the nosiest man alive. We're not that close. I hid the real answer, not wanting him to see. Then why not go to her? I knew perfectly well Vivian wouldn't have invited him, but I hadn't meant to jab at his wounded pride over chasing her. Your sister didn't invite me. I can't just barge in for cake. He threw up his hands helpless. I didn't invite you either, so why'd you come? I said. You want me to throw you out? He made a show of getting up to leave. I shot up and blocked him. It was late anyway, and there were no trains left. Chase started toward the door to go find a hotel. I looked at the snow coming down thick outside. The roads were surely impassable. Just stay here. Take my dad's room. He's not here. His expression seemed to shift, then flooded instantly with delight, and he sprang up off the sofa. So, you do have a conscience, after all. That night, lying in bed on my phone, I saw the birthday photos of Vivian go up in the group feed. There she was, with her best friend, with my mother's husband, and with Julian. I sat bolt upright and couldn't stop myself zooming in and out. In the center shot, Vivian stood arm in arm with Julian, the two of them beaming in front of the cake, so happy it made you envious. The caption read, "Spending my happiest birthday with the most important person." It wasn't an official announcement, but it was better than one. In the end, Vivian was with the boy I'd loved. I rolled back and forth in bed, unable to sleep. Calling it heartbreak wasn't right. We'd never even started. It was more the closing of a crush I'd never spoken aloud. Calling it painful wasn't right either. Honestly, I hadn't cared that much. It was the particular emptiness that comes from chasing something and failing. I opened my phone to watch a few videos, and just then a message from Chase lit up. Asleep? I thought about it and replied, "No, come sit out here a while." I came out of my room and saw Chase alone on the sofa, and it struck me. It seemed I wasn't the only one nursing a broken heart tonight. You saw it too? I probed. Saw what? His face didn't look like a man who knew. I twisted myself into knots. If I said it out loud, I might hurt him. If I didn't, I'd only weigh him down. So I chose to explain it gently. If, and I mean if, my sister were with someone else, you mustn't, under any circumstances, take it hard. Chase looked at me warily. You know your sister's seeing someone? From his tone, he already knew about Vivian too. You saw her post? No need to guess then, and I felt lighter for it. But Chase went blank. How do you know that? I saw them on the island. I sat there a moment, and finally understood why Chase had said wrong way that night. I really had seen Vivian and Julian. Stringing together the days on the island, it was clear the two of them had been together since then. Round and round we went. Two idiots. Our alliance was pretty useless in the end, huh? So? Chase looked at me and said nothing. Julian's blind. He's not worthy of you, I said carefully, comforting him. Anyway, she was never mine. No point forcing it. I laughed, because ever since I was small, I'd been used to the feeling of not getting things. No matter how hard you fought, it came to nothing. Chase stared at me, no readable expression on his face. Don't be sad, I told him honestly. Yours truly's not sad. Yours truly's actually happy. He suddenly said it loud. I'd been afraid heartbreak might drive him half mad. Remembering how Vivian had once summed him up, I did my best to console him. The two of you were never headed the same way anyway. Better to go your separate roads. Good for you both. No need to cling. Hearing that, Chase's face ran through every color it had. Finally, he threw back his head and roared, Nora, yours truly never liked your sister in the first place. Then Chase told me the truth. He'd chased Vivian because of a bet. My face went dark. You go after a girl like that, with that little care? He fell silent. After a while, quietly, he made me a promise. From now on, I'll only ever chase the one I truly like. Before I went back to bed, I asked him, "Our alliance should be over now, shouldn't it?" Chase's hand, reaching for the door, stopped in midair. He thought about it a long time. Then he gave a low, and went inside. I assumed Chase would leave the next day, but the moment he learned I was heading back on the 7th, he flatly insisted on coming with me. "You start work this early?" He was pacing the living room in my dad's pajamas. "I'm interning at a newspaper. I want to make a good impression." That was the plain truth. Chances like this don't come easy. I can't waste it. Chase went pensive. "You're not going home? Your parents won't worry?" The truth was I was curious about his life. He looked put out. Nobody keeps tabs on yours truly. So whether at school or at home, he was a troublesome little tyrant. "And you? Your dad's not around, your mom's off with your sister." We were both like porcupines, both of us clearly meaning well inside, and both of us forever picking the unfun, prickling question that jabbed the other one. "My parents divorced. My mom remarried, and the other side would only take one child, so—" The rest I said only in my heart, quiet enough for just me to hear. A freebie that could be there or not, like me, wouldn't have needed bringing along. "It's fine," Chase said. "From now on, you've got me." When he said it, everything felt off-kilter and strange. That fierce, arrogant campus boss was nowhere to be found. On the 7th, Chase rode the train with me, saw me through the subway, and walked me all the way to the foot of my dorm. It was still break, so the campus was thin of people, and the whole dormitory building sat empty and dark. Chase lingered downstairs a long while, long enough to finish a few cigarettes, but he wouldn't let me go up. "You're really set on staying in the dorm?" he asked, staring up at the pitch-black building. "Where else would I stay? The rentals outside are a mess. The dorm's safer." I didn't want him worrying. He said nothing, eyes fixed on the ground, and I couldn't tell what he was thinking. "Go home now. I want to rest. Early start tomorrow." I was deliberately shooing him. Unhappy about it, he stood there a bit longer, and only then agreed to go. I started the internship on the 8th. The school and the newspaper weren't close. By subway, the round trip ate nearly 3 hours. In the winter mornings, the sky still hadn't fully lightened, and the streets hadn't fully woken. Bundled in my coat and scarf, I was just about to leave the campus gate when a car pulled up and cut me off. "Get in. I'll drive you." The window rolled down. It was Chase. I eyed him suspiciously. "There's no need." He growled at me, fierce, then caught how that had sounded, coughed twice, and explained. "I'm not a thief and I'm not a robber. Got my license 4 or 5 years ago. Relax and get in." So I got in, dazed the whole time. And just like that, Chase was at the gate on the dot every morning, at the newspaper every evening. Getting rides became a habit, and it left me a little embarrassed. On the 15th of January, I planned to talk to Chase on the way back and tell him he didn't need to keep picking me up. But I stood waiting outside the newspaper a long time and never saw a trace of him. I called. A stranger answered. "You a friend of his? He got in a fight. He's at the police station now. Come down here." It was a bitter, freezing winter day, but my head felt like a bolt of lightning had ripped through it. When I got to the station, Chase's face was badly cut up. Across from him sat a middle-aged man, whose injuries looked, if anything, worse than his. One of them roaring curses at Chase, the other pouring out his grievances to the police. Chase sat in a corner, head down, saying nothing. Watching him from across the room, a raw ache rose in my chest. I thought of that night 3 years ago, at this very station. My father slumped and hollow, a sight I could never forget. "You're Chase's friend, aren't you?" the officer said, spotting me at the door, and called me in. Hearing the voice, Chase lifted his head, and he looked like a bird startled off a branch, his eyes brimming with worry. The middle-aged man saw me come in and stood to take his argument to me, and Chase suddenly shot up off his chair on guard. "What are you doing? Sit down." "Enough." The officer looked between them, then explained to me, "These two were fighting. We happened to be on patrol and caught them, so we brought them in." He turned. "Kid, why are you crying?" I'd meant to hold it in, but the scene undid me, and the tears just fell. And no matter how I fought them, they wouldn't stop. The officer took one look and, of all things, said it louder. I was so embarrassed I could have died. And still the tears came faster. The more anyone mentioned them, the harder they dropped, completely beyond my control. All three men in the room went helpless. "Nora, don't cry. I'm fine." Chase had never once seen me like this. He wanted to comfort me, but was afraid the police wouldn't let him, so he could only sit there fretting. The middle-aged man, who'd been ready to have it out with me, didn't dare say a single word now. Flustered, the officer handed me a handkerchief and remembered to reassure me. "It's not as serious as you think. They can settle it. He won't have to go to prison?" I sniffled, because I was afraid of the thing 3 years ago happening all over again. "No, but we do have to wait for his father to come. The two families just need to reconcile." The officer comforted me on one side and lectured Chase on the other. "Look how worried your friend is over you. Stop doing things that break the law." Chase stared at me, stunned, and then a grin broke over his face. I'd thought the tears were blurring my sight, but after I wiped them away, I found he really was smiling, and smiling wide. When Chase's father arrived, the two of them didn't speak to each other. I found it strange, but didn't dare pry. After everything was settled, his father looked at me once, then looked at him. "Coming home yourself or coming with me?" "Myself." Chase's face didn't move. His father drove off. The two of us stood outside the station, and he lit a cigarette, took 2 drags. When he tilted his head to look at me, he seemed to notice for the first time that it was the dead of a freezing winter night, and the dorm was long since locked. "Come to my place." He put out the cigarette, barely half smoked, and draped his fur coat over my shoulders. "I'm not cold." I moved to give it back. "Put it on." He ordered it, and I obeyed and wore his coat. It really was cold out. I only argued for about 2 seconds. When we reached his home, I was floored. The place Chase lived turned out to be an enormous unit right in the heart of the city. I hadn't known his family was this rich. His father wasn't there. He told the housekeeper to make up the guest room. "Nora, help me put some medicine on." He was already taking selfies. "Can't let yours truly's face get wrecked." I followed him into the room. It was clean, but the whole palette of it was low and cold, without a trace of warmth. On the nightstand, aside from a lamp, sat a photograph, a beautiful woman in a white slip gown, and a little boy whose face was the very image of Chase. Wait, a white slip gown. I looked hard at the photo and realized the dress was very like the one Chase had given me, though the cut was a little different. If that boy really was Chase, then the woman in the gown would have worn it at least a dozen years ago. But the one he'd given me looked practically new. "That's my mother." Chase's voice sliced through my thoughts. In front of me, he'd mentioned his mother only twice. This time, and once before, at the hospital, when he'd called me Mom. I looked again at the woman in white. Her build, next to mine the night I performed, was strikingly close. No wonder. She's so beautiful. I didn't know what else to say, but the words came straight from somewhere true. "She passed away," Chase said. I looked at him and didn't even know how to begin to comfort him. "It's all right. It's in the past." He smiled at me, playing at not caring, but the grief soaked plainly through the smile. "That idiot today said something about my mother. If it had been me, I'd have thrown a punch too," I said, hoping it might make him feel better. He looked at me, his gaze not moving an inch, staring until he was lost in it. I dabbed medicine on him. Chase sat on the edge of the bed, and I bent over him, a cotton ball soaked in antiseptic in my hand, working carefully from his forehead down to his cheeks. Stubborn as ever, he wouldn't close his eyes, just kept watching me. When I finished, I leaned in to check his face more closely for any spot I'd missed. And in that instant, he suddenly kissed me. Lip to lip, I panicked, hands and feet all thumbs, and the cotton and the bottle of antiseptic both clattered to the floor. It took everything I had to shove him off. "What are you doing?" I was furious. "Couldn't help wanting to kiss you." Chase said it low, and there was something like fire in his eyes that set my face and ears burning red. "The medicine's right there. Do it yourself." I fled the room. I couldn't hold on to my composure anymore. Chase had lost his mind, and it seemed I might have too. Chase kept driving me to work as usual. Anyone with eyes could read his feelings toward me, and how could I, standing in the middle of it, not know? Lately, the things Vivian had said kept surfacing in my head. "Don't get close to him. Being trailed by his kind is trouble, Nora." I'd dream I was at the police station sobbing. Sometimes I'd even dream I'd gone to visit Chase in prison. Every time I woke, a wide patch of my pillow would be soaked through. I'd look at the empty dorm and hurt, with no one to tell. As the new term drew near, I made a decision. I'd take Chase to visit my father. The prison visiting room was small. My father sat on the far side of that clear pane of glass. In 3 years, I'd never once come to see him. He'd grown so thin. When he saw me, he smiled for a long time. "Your boyfriend?" he asked, staring at Chase behind me. "Just a friend." I fought to keep my voice level. "Good to have friends." His gaze slid off Chase and settled on me. "Our Nora never did like making friends before." Hearing that, my heart couldn't help but ache. When visiting hours ran out, Chase and I squatted at the roadside in front of the prison. Across the wide road stretched a boundless winter field. Chase pulled a cigarette from his pocket. "Give me one," I said suddenly. Chase was bewildered. "It's just one cigarette. Just this once, I'm begging you." In the end, he gave it to me. But I'd barely taken one drag before I dissolved into a coughing fit that brought tears to my eyes. "No, no more." Chase snatched the cigarette out of my hand in a rush. I never should have agreed. I sagged. "Don't give it to me then. I don't need it. I didn't force you." "Who says?" Chase sprang to his feet. I stared at him blankly. He pulled me up and folded me into his arms. "From now on, whatever you want, just tell yours truly. I'll give you all of it." He'd give me everything. My heart moved, and I was touched by the words. I told Chase about my father, how he used to gather with others and fight, how my mother couldn't take it any longer and divorced him, how he only got worse afterward, how his enemies would come all the way to the house. 3 years ago, the school told me to go to the police station, and there I saw my father. He'd hurt someone so badly he was sentenced to 5 years. Chase hadn't expected me to tell him any of this. His eyes went darker, deeper. "Chase, stop fighting." I heard my own voice come out soft and steady at once. He stared at the field in front of him, lost in it. I followed his gaze. The dry, cracked winter earth. Nothing on it but a scatter of sparrows chirping and flitting past. No more fighting." The new term began, and Chase turned into a different person. He went to class like anyone else, joined the activities. He disbanded his whole crew of underlings and hadn't forgotten to lecture them on the way out. "We're juniors now. Cut the nonsense, or you'll all be drinking the northwest wind." When I had no major classes of my own, I'd sometimes go sit in on Chase's. At first, the professors watched me like I was a sideshow. Later, I came often enough that it just became normal. But every time I went with him, I'd run into Julian, and every time he'd greet me with that same warm smile. Once, during a break, I slipped out to the restroom, and just as I reached the classroom door, Julian stopped me. "Nora, are you dating Chase?" He didn't strike me as the gossiping type, so I kept listening. "Your sister's very worried about you." So it came back to Vivian, of course. Since the term started, she and I hadn't been in touch much. And about me and Chase, I figured there was no need to tell her anything. "Senior," I paused. "Or should I call you brother-in-law?" Julian laughed, embarrassed, and scratched his head. "Either's fine. Vivian's afraid that with all his fighting, he'll hurt someone and drag you into it. She doesn't want you around a person like that, doesn't want you to suffer." A sudden sadness welled up in me. Sad for Chase, judged on nothing but prejudice, and sad for myself, treated like some lonely, solitary goose. But none of them understood the deeper reasons underneath. They only saw the surface and said you shouldn't. You can't. But what was there to say was should, and what was could? "Thanks for the heads up. Chase is a good guy. We're both doing just fine." I turned to leave, but he stopped me again. Chase came out from inside, eyeing Julian suspiciously, then stepped quietly over to plant himself in front of me. "Hey, this is Nora, not your Vivian. Don't go mixing them up again." There was a whiff of jealousy in the air. "You've got it wrong. He came to tell me about my sister." I pulled Chase back, smoothing things over. The boy across from us gave a helpless little laugh. "That's right. Vivian says you won't answer your phone or reply to her texts, so she asked me to pass it on. She wants to meet you at the cafe in front of the school this afternoon. Don't forget." Once Julian had gone off, Chase tilted his head and stared at me. "Meeting your sister? I want to come too." I said nothing. But by the time we reached the cafe door, Chase had thought better of it. "Better if I don't go in. Didn't you say your sister and I aren't headed down the same road? That everyone going their separate way is best?" He smiled gently and ruffled my hair. "I'll wait for you at the door." I didn't force it and went in on my own. "Nora, over here." Vivian sat by the window and waved me over. Since coming back from the coast, the two of us seemed never to have met. "He's not coming in?" She glanced toward the door. She'd seen Chase bring me. I sat across from her and nodded in silence. "Are you two together?" she probed. "No, honestly, even I wasn't sure whether what we had counted as being together. I hear he's changed lately, the boss of our whole school, like a completely different person." Vivian said it half joking. "The truth is, I'm not against you two. I'm just afraid he'll turn out like Dad." "Dad is Dad. Chase is Chase." I cut her off. "They're not the same." Her hand, around her cup, paused a moment, then lifted it to her lips. And then I said a great deal, things I'd never managed to say to her before. "Ever since we were little, I've never once fought for anything. Even when Mom took you away, all I thought was, if one of us had to be chosen, then let me be the one who stays behind. When the piano was carried off, I only thought you were the one who should learn it, that I was just idly playing around. So I always told myself, whatever I like, whoever I like, isn't something I'm allowed to want. On my own, I feel lonely too. Not because I don't want friends, but because even if I open my umbrella myself, it's hard for anyone else to come in under it." But you know what? Chase got in. He made me realize I'm allowed to ask for things, that I'm allowed to make my own wishes come true. You once said I'd been set free, but I was never free, and I never even thought I needed to be. Now that's changed. His showing up gave me the courage to say goodbye to the past. So why should I have to let go of him? I said so much. In the end, I finally managed to say all of it to her. Vivian's eyes reddened a little. She listened calmly, holding herself steady, afraid her feelings would run away with her. Sister, I don't want to live alone anymore. Once the words were out, my heart finally eased. Vivian looked at me a long while, and in her eyes there was both self-reproach and sorrow. As long as you can be happy, that's all. I hope so too, I said. When I said goodbye to Vivian, I told her we should go back to how we were before, that we didn't need to trade too much of ourselves. At school, I still wasn't used to everyone playing guess which one is Vivian. Some things I'd finally seen clear through, and some things I didn't need to force back together. When I stepped out of the cafe, Chase was still waiting for me at the roadside. I walked up and slapped him hard on the back. Scared me half to death. The man really couldn't be startled. He asked me how the talk had gone. I didn't answer. The two of us just walked side by side, all the way back to school. Chase, be my boyfriend. Finally, I could say it. But the moment the words left me, the person beside me was gone. I turned and found him rooted to the spot, dumbstruck. You don't want to? I frowned. For better or worse, he was the one who'd confessed to me first, even if he'd confessed to the wrong twin. Want? How could I not want to? Chase came flying at me and crushed me into a hug. In this life, yours truly eats one fruit and one fruit only. What he meant was, in this life, I only like you, Birdie. Now here's how the whole thing looked from Chase's side. Those clowns over in the foreign languages department actually dared to bet yours truly that I couldn't win over the belle of their faculty. Wasn't that a laughably small thing? I staked the place out for a few days and finally caught her alone. And I laid it all out for her. Only she went and told me I'd confessed to the wrong girl. What? Turns out they were twins. But there were people watching. Chase Winters could not afford to lose face. So first I put a little scare into her, and then I strung her along, saved my dignity, and got to negotiate about pursuing her sister in the bargain. 2 birds, 1 stone. Then she said she wanted to make a deal with me. Fine. I had nothing to lose. She asked me to help her chase my own classmate, Julian Reed. Girls these days actually go for that type? It put me right off my food, had me questioning the meaning of life. She told me to get up and perform at the anniversary gala. I didn't want to. If she liked it so much, she could go herself. I said the right thing. So, why did she look a little hurt? Chase, come on, yours truly's no good at comforting people. What am I supposed to do here? This is urgent, waiting for an answer. She used to be a bit scared of me, but not anymore. Now she's even bold enough to make requests of me. Piano practice. I know a junior over in the music department. I can get her to sort out a room. A gown. We had one at home. Except I'd only just bought it, to remember my mother by. She loved that style, so I'd bought it to keep her close. I really couldn't bear to part with it, but no one was going to wear it anyway. Give it to her. She plays so beautifully. A true master, hiding it all this time. In the end, she took me to meet her sister, the belle of the foreign languages department, who honestly wasn't half as interesting as she was. Turns out she hadn't touched a piano in 5 years. Something had happened. I know that kind of ache. It hurts. Those thugs from the other department actually dared to swarm yours truly. Pity there were too many of them. I went down wounded in glory and got hauled off to the hospital. I'd said I'd watch her perform, and I broke my word. Hold on. Who's that at the door? Mom, no, that's her, isn't it? Am I seeing things? So humiliating. But in that gown, she really did look a little like my mother. Both of them fairies. Both so lovely. That bookworm Julian actually came over to make conversation with me. And then the trip to the coast? What's the story there? Those two behind my back had gotten this far already? I said I wanted to come along, and Julian actually hesitated. Yours truly doesn't even spend his money. Still has to line up at airport security. And yet, these two are over there flirting. I couldn't watch it. I found every way I could to keep them from sneaking looks at each other. And in the end, I caught her alone outside the guest house. Nothing better to do anyway. So I took her out to see the sea. The belle and the bookworm are exhausting, always trailing after us. And you, bookworm, do you even know the first thing about chasing a girl? Buying flowers for two girls at once, and twin sisters at that. I don't get how the belle ever looked twice at him. Honestly, yours truly isn't cut out for this crowd. How they came up with a game like Guess Which One is the Belle, I'll never know. I could have guessed it with my eyes shut. Pfft, Julian got it wrong. How's he going to explain that one to the belle? Since we got back, we haven't talked much, and it stung a little. Ray and Mac bought me some pomelo, said it'd cool me down. Pomelo. I think I miss her. Little birdie, because I lost the bet, the foreign languages guys made me treat them to a meal. And over dinner, I found out that the third day of the new year is the belle's birthday. Wouldn't that also be little birdie's birthday? I got the belle's home address out of them, only to discover that Birdie's parents were divorced, and she lived with her father. So I had someone track down the belle's hometown address out in the country. I couldn't be sure Birdie would even be there, but I figured I'd give it a shot. I bought a cake. Pomelo flavor. Old heaven above had better be proud of me. The snow came down thick, and some of the trains got canceled. But lucky for me, my luck's still good. I got a ticket in the end. At her door, I spent 2 minutes fixing myself up, a little nervous. When little Birdie appeared, I nearly hugged her. But I held it in. She was home all alone. Instant noodles for longevity noodles? That made me ache a bit. Chase Winters has never once sung happy birthday to anyone. Today, I'd sing it for her. She made her wish, and I slipped and called her by the nickname I'd been keeping in my heart. She didn't seem to like it much. Insisted I go back to calling her Nora. What a stiff, no-fun way to be called. Little Birdie let me stay the night, but she was asleep in the next room. And how was I supposed to sleep? I texted her. Turns out she was still up. I got her to come out, and I circled around the subject of the belle's love life. Did she already know? She did. I didn't know how to comfort her. Her sister ending up with the boy she liked has to hurt. But she comforted me first. I really couldn't hold it in, and I told her I didn't like her sister. Birdie got angry and scolded me for chasing girls so carelessly. I promised her, from now on, I'll only ever chase the one I like. Birdie, I'm ready now. I want to chase you. Ever since my mother died in a car accident, I stopped liking these toy cars of mine. But because Birdie's internship was so far away, the only thing I could do was drive her there and back every single day. Yours truly, how do I get this unlucky running into some idiot who dared curse my mother? I couldn't help myself. I charged in and hit him, and ran straight into a patrolling cop. So embarrassing. At the station, they said I should cooperate, and there was no way around it. I had to call my father. For an old man like him to actually agree to come, that's really giving me face. What's going on? Why is she here? Little Birdie's crying. It breaks my heart. She asked the officer whether I'd have to go to prison. So she's worried about me. What do? I feel awful and wonderful all at once. Birdie came home with me, and I told her about my mother and about the fight today. She not only didn't blame me, she said if it had been her, she'd have thrown a punch too. How can she be this adorable? Birdie put medicine on me, and she doesn't even know that when she's concentrating she pouts, and it looks so soft it makes a person want to kiss her. I couldn't hold back, and I kissed her. Sweet, soft, so good. But Birdie seemed furious and walked straight out. Whatever. I'll apologize tomorrow. She took me to visit her father. Turns out her dad's in there. All at once I felt for her. How could she come to a place like that all by herself? Her father asked whether I was her boyfriend. My future father-in-law's got a good eye. If it weren't for that pane of glass, I'd have applauded him right there. But little Birdie said no. Humph. Sooner or later. Birdie wanted a cigarette. I didn't want to give her one. But I couldn't bear to refuse her either. She took one drag and coughed her lungs out. Yours truly's an idiot. I never should have handed it over. Bertie said, fine, don't give it then. Asked nothing of me at all. In that moment, I wanted to hand her the whole world. She told me her father went to prison because of fighting. So my being at the police station had dragged up unhappy memories for her. I regret it more than I can say. Bertie told me to stop fighting. All right, I agree. I started studying hard. Bertie even comes to class with me sometimes. Turns out college life can be this good. I plan to confess in a few days. This time for real. No fumbling like before. Julian, why is he coming to find Bertie again? Thinking of how he mixed up the twins on the island. I'm so angry my eyes are about to go all white. He's the one Bertie likes. I can't let him get close. Bertie panicked for a second. Turns out it was her sister looking for her. I went with her to the cafe but didn't go in. Their business as sisters is theirs to settle. Let them work it out themselves. But if anyone ever wants to hurt Bertie, yours truly will deal with them personally. What did Bertie just say? She wants me to be her boyfriend? She confessed before I even could. I agree. In this life, yours truly likes only you, Bertie. Thank you all for listening.